But as deep-rooted as is the game of baseball in our American way of life, there was a time when the idol was discovered to have feet of clay. In 1919, the World Series between the Chicago White Sox and the Cincinnati Redlegs astounded the sports world when a seemingly unbeatable Chicago team went down to ignominious defeat before the less highly regarded Redlegs.
Charles Cominsky owned the Chicago White Sox team and was known as a tyrant and tightwad and even as blamed for players willing to sell their baseball souls for money. He decided to save money by not allowing the players' uniforms to be washed, giving them the nickname the Black Sox.
What's the scoop, Harry?
Mr. Comiskey sent these down for you. His congratulations for a successful pennant race.
Well, that's white of him. He didn't happen to mention when we could expect that bonus he promised us if we took the flag, did he?
This is your bonus.
Cheap bastard.
Fellas, if it was up to me...
Kid, we got no beef with you. It's flat.
The most surprising underpaid player was Joe Jackson, known as Shoeless Joe Jackson, who was the very best and only paid $6,000 a year.
He had 12 hits, a series record, batted .375, leading individual statistics for both. Hit the only home run of the series, made 0 errors in the field, and threw out a runner at home plate. Yet despite all this, the greatest player to ever play the game was banned from it. Shoeless Joe was banned for life from the game he loved to play since childhood.
Joe Jackson was pressured by his teammates to purposely lose some games in the World Series, despite his better judgment.
We got together, most of the guys, and the thing is, we're going to drop a couple of games in the series.
Who?
Oh, everybody. Chick, me, Seacott, Lefty.
Lefty.
Sure, Lefty. And Fred, and Hap, and Bucky. Everybody. And Joe, some of them, well, I won't name names, but I had to tell him no. We can't leave Joe out of this. He's one of us. I says,
You want me?
we need you, Joe.
I don't know.
You'd be an awful sap to turn it down at this point, Joe. Lefty and Eddie. I mean, it would just be stupid not to do it.
So then the biggest scandal in baseball history began. Americans had looked for peace and clarity during a rough time and found it in baseball, until the game became the most corrupt part of the year 1919. As a result of the unfair payment received by the White Sox players, a group part of one of the greatest known teams were willing to give up a chance as World Series champs for cash, and so the lines between gamblers and ballplayers had become blurred. Arnold Rothstein was the most prominent gambler sportsman in America, and it is still a mystery if he was directly involved in the fix, along with at least 20 other gamblers betting that the Chicago White Sox would lose the 1919 World Series. And so the first game began on October 1st, 1919, and Eddie Cicotti was to either hit or walk the first batter to show that the fix was on, and he hit the batter on the second pitch. The game ended with the Reds winning 9-1. In the second game, Lefty Williams walked 3 Cincinnati batters, who all scored. The final score ended up being Cincinnati 4, Chicago White Sox 2. The Sox won the third game in anger of only receiving half of their promised pay from the gamblers, and also behind pitcher Dickie Kerr, who had not been involved in the scandal. The Sox players involved in the scandal received their pay and lost the fourth game after 2 fielding errors by pitcher Eddie Cicotti. Oscar Felsch misplayed 2 plays in the 6th inning of Game 5, both obvious mistakes and huge contributions to the White Sox loss. After Game 5, the gamblers again failed to pay up, and the Sox decided to play like they could, winning Game 6 and 7. Game 8 would have tied the best of 9 series, but threats were made against the players by the gamblers, and the Cincinnati Reds went on to win the 1919 World Series. Of the 8 men involved, 4 were for sure playing to lose, who were Chick Gandil, Lefty Williams, Eddie Cicotti, and Charles Risberg. Oscar Felch and Fred McMullen were both in on the deal and somewhat to blame, but the two players unfairly included in the group were Joe Jackson and Buck Weaver. Joe was blamed only for accepting money, and Weaver just knew of the fix and failed to report it. The trials began about a year after, and was a much longer of a process than the actual fix. Chief Clerk read the jury's first verdict, giving the players joy as they were announced not guilty. However, the day after the jury's first verdict, the new commissioner of baseball, Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis, announced this statement. Regardless of the jury's verdict, no player who throws a ball game, no player that undertakes or promises to throw a ball game, no player that sits in conference with a bunch of crooked players and gamblers where the ways and means of throwing a game are discussed and does not promptly tell his club about it will ever play professional baseball. Many believe that the 8 players deserved to never play again, and they destroyed the White Sox name, while others felt bad for the players who were desperate for money and believed the gamblers deserved all the blame, not the poorly paid players. Despite any opinions, baseball changed forever, and the Sox kept the nickname the Black Sox until the curse was finally let go with the 2005 World Series victory.